In today's video, I'm going to share a story from a recent gig that turned out to be quite eventful. As an active music performer, I'm occasionally flown out to perform with various groups. In this instance, I was flown out with my theorbo to play with the Lakes Area Music Festival. If you don't know what a theorbo is, here's a sample. As you can see, it's a 6-foot tall lute, but thankfully mine folds in half and fits nicely in a plane seat. So traveling went just fine, but unfortunately the night before the first rehearsal, I was tuning my theorbo and my tuning peg snapped in half. The tuning pegs on theorbos are similar to violin pegs. They're friction pegs that just are pushed in and turn. And having no replacement peg, I was out of luck. So rehearsal started the next day, so I frantically got in touch with luthiers close to town. So I learned of a guy named Bob who ran a guitar shop just about 30 minutes drive away. So I drove to his shop in the morning and ended up being a really nice, charming place, and Bob was very cool, and he glued back the peg in one piece. Now while he did a really good job gluing it back together, I was still really concerned that this peg might break again in the middle of the concert. So I decided what I'd really needed was to have a new peg fit. Unfortunately, this is a pretty complicated process. You need the right size pegs, and basically you need a lute maker. I then learned that there's actually a really good lute maker in Duluth, Minnesota, but unfortunately it was just over a 2-hour drive away. So I skipped the first musical rehearsal, I used the rental car the company provided me, and I drove up to Duluth, Minnesota. And the drive was actually quite beautiful. And finally, I arrived at this beautiful lute workshop run by Dan Larson at Gamut Strings. Dan quickly got to work at fitting a perfect custom peg for this instrument. To my surprise, it only took him an hour to do the job, and the peg worked perfectly. So big thank you to Dan Larson for saving the day. This lute workshop is also the home of Gamut Music, who makes gut strings, so of course I couldn't resist the urge to buy a few for the theorbo. Before heading back to Brainerd, I decided to stop in downtown Duluth to check out the pier and the lighthouses and enjoy some ice cream. And after another lengthy drive, I finally made it back to Brainerd and was attending rehearsals. The people at the festival were awesome and the rehearsal process was a lot of fun. I now had my theorbo, which was ready to go with a new peg and gut strings, and was ready to perform. Here I am backstage waiting for my turn to go on stage. The early music group I was playing with sounded fantastic. Here's a sample. I had some fun moments during the concert where the theorbo was featured. So although this gig got off to such a rocky start, the whole thing ended up being a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it.